Hello, my friends, and welcome to a special episode of the Empowered Podcast, or what we will soon be referring to as the Ellory Wells Show. I wanted to share a few things with you. Not only do I want to thank the people, I would like to thank the Academy. Just kidding. Not only do I want to thank the people who really helped make the podcast a possibility, but I want to share some of the lessons that I have learned over the last, if this was November of 2016, we'd be, 3 years. So we're right at 2.5 years. So I wanted to share some of the lessons that I've learned over the last 2.5 years. 100 episodes. I've been interviewed on, 20 or 30 different shows, which isn't a lot, but it's something that I'm pretty proud of. My podcast has allowed me to write a book. It's allowed me to be on stage. It has helped me get new clients. It's helped me to break down barriers, become a better speaker, become a better writer. And I want to share some of those lessons with you because, you're listening to this. Seriously, you think this is one of those times where, they're just saying that. But I want you to hear me. I want you to stop for half a second and I want you to hear me. I would have stopped podcasting a long time ago if people like you, let me rephrase, if you didn't listen. I want you to think about that. I'm not going to edit out any long pauses. I want you to think about that for a second because when you're in radio, I've never been in radio, but think about radio. There's no way to track really how many people listen. And the same thing goes with TV going back a long time ago. You pick it up with rabbit ears and there's no way to really tell how many people are pulling in that signal. And there's really no way to tell if the people are recording it on a VCR or something or just fast forwarding. Now that technology is getting better, but with podcasting, We've always had that ability. We can track downloads. We can see what country they come from, what state. There may be a way to get more creepy and specific than that, but I don't know. But podcasting is a different thing than so many different things, and it's helped me. And again, I want to reiterate, I would not be here. I would not have a bunch of the clients that I have. I wouldn't have had the opportunities to be on stage in multiple states. Maybe someday I'll be able to say multiple countries, but I would not be able to do that without you. So thank you. So again, this episode, it's kind of a special, it's like, I imagine it as the credits. The screen goes black and the credits just start to roll. But instead of me just saying thank you, because honestly, I wouldn't care to listen to me saying thank you or anyone else just saying thank you. But I'm going to break down some of the major lessons that I have learned after interviewing, probably 50, 75 just incredible people, several millionaires, even several multi-millionaires, or like my guest, Jim Stovall, which we'll talk about, a decamillionaire. Just incredible opportunities. So if you're on the fence about starting a podcast, go to empoweredpodcast.com/credits. Because I'm gonna share some links. So just remember that. Again, if you're at your computer, you'll have access to these as soon as you hear it. empoweredpodcast.com/credits. CREDITS. And I want you to pick up my book. Seriously, I'm going to promote the heck out of that real quick. I wouldn't be where I am without my podcast. And if you're on the fence, it's the best guide to help you get started. I even have, and I'll put this on that page as well, I have a video tutorial as well that'll walk you through it. One of my friends bought my book and he still had some questions, and I put together the podcast pre-launch video series. And I did a screen record, I pulled up Camtasia, and I did everything. So it's not a screenshot, it's not a, hey, just go upload it to, this is exactly how I did it. So if you're on the fence about starting a podcast, stay tuned, listen to the rest of this episode, because again, I feel bad for not releasing an episode for 6 months, but I cannot place I can't talk too good about podcasting. It has really helped my business. It has helped me personally. And even the podcast that I did with my wife, which if you go to ashleyandellery.com, you'll be able to find that. We had a lot of fun, and we made a lot of friends, and had quite a few listeners while we were doing that, by the way, just sharing our story, just sitting down and talking husband to wife, guy to girl, those kinds of things. So podcasting is amazing. So let's go into some of the lessons. Took some notes here, and I will sprinkle these lessons throughout some of the highlights from the last 100 episodes. The first one, I would not have my existing book, How to Start Your Professional Podcast for $200 or Less. That one got to Amazon #1 bestseller. Had that not happened, I might not be working on my book, Exit Strategy. I want you to check that out as well. Podcasting has helped me build relationships. It has been a critical part of my sales funnel. It has helped remove barriers from people knowing, liking, and trusting me enough to pay me hundreds of dollars a month for coaching, masterminds, my membership site, those kinds of things. And honestly, it's made me a lot of friends. So, again, the link for today's episode, empoweredpodcast.com/credits. I feel like that's pretty appropriate given where we are. It's not really episode 101, and it's not episode 0 or 1 of the Ellory Wells Show. It's going to fit right in there in your feed. And if you've listened this far, you've obviously not skipped over it. So thank you for that. So here we go. Episode number 1 was my epic introduction to the Empowered Podcast. I sucked. Don't listen to that episode. I was awful. I have learned over time to add more inflection to my voice, and part of that is through standing up. I'm not standing right now, but it's that vocal variety that they teach you in Toastmasters that I have over time learned. And obviously, if you listen to it in episode 1, I might have felt energetic, but I was nervous and those kinds of, and it's a bad episode. And I want to thank the next handful of people like Jim Stovall, Marley Ward, Dan and Vanessa Hayes, and Farnoosh Brock for accepting my invite to be on my show before I had a show. Because there's really no proof of concept. Podcasting was growing, but I had I had no way to say, hey, go check this out, go listen to that, and see what the show is all about. And so I'm gonna go through a couple of these things and share my thoughts here. If you want to go and listen to all of the episodes, go to empoweredpodcast.com. You will see a link to all of those. Let's see what else you got on this page. You'll see the 5 most downloaded episodes. You can get links to Stitcher, iTunes, RSS, and my podcast player. That's Pat Flynn's podcast player, by the way. I went through a pretty extensive amount of research before I bought that, but feel free to email me about that or ask in the comments section at empoweredpodcast.com/credits if you want to know why I picked that one. But Farnoosh Brock, such a cool person. She and I both had careers in the IT industry. We both saw things that we didn't like, and we both decided to do something different. So in my case, I still decided. I had the choice to go and apply somewhere else or whatever, but Dan Hayes in episode 3, I asked him how to say no without feeling like a jerk. We get so much on our plate, and Dan and Vanessa shared some incredible advice that I've incorporated into my books, into my talks, into blog posts about how you can do things on your terms and really prioritize yourself. Marley Ward introduced me to the term golden handcuffs, where it's a phenomenon of where we make enough money to really be happy, and how that salary that we have might actually be these, instead of a blessing, it might be this pair of handcuffs. They look like gold because we're getting paid, but it's really truly a pair of handcuffs that are really holding us back and keeping us restrained and imprisoned in an atmosphere that we're not okay with, that we are not comfortable with, that forget being miserable, just we're not happy. We're not living a life that we know we should be living in. That golden handcuffs analogy that really applies to that. And do you ever have a quote that sticks with you? You know, there's always those famous quotes or whatever that everybody knows, but there's something that Jim Stovall told me in episode number 6. It's called Why Successful People Focus on the Mission, Not the Method. And that's part of the quote. Focus on your mission, not on your method. Your method might change. Your tactics might change, but your mission, your overall purpose in life, in business, is probably not going to change just a whole lot. And Jim Stovall told me about that. Benny Shu in episode 9, talked about making a boatload of money with apps and how to do it. And I have referred people to him. I've referred people to that episode. I don't know that I've ever thought about having an app, but I know a lot of people who do, and I have referred people to episode 9. Jeff Brown, episode 10, man, he's crushing it with his show. He and I have met in person several times. We're not close friends, but we could definitely go and have a good dinner, and we would know each other and sit down and chat. Of course, Amy Porterfield, episode 11, I almost said GSPN, which actually I could change that because that's not his Twitter handle anymore. But Cliff Ravenscraft, I caught him and Amy, he and Amy at the Platform Conference in Dallas. And that's just being at the right place at the right time and being willing to ask, guys. How many times in your life have you gotten what you wanted just because you asked? And really, let's flip it around. How many times have you not gotten what you wanted because you didn't ask? I'll raise my hand. I have let I don't even know, probably a ton of opportunities slip through my fingers because I was too chicken, too introverted, too afraid, whatever, just to ask. And I talked about this in my 2015 year in review, how I grew my business 2015 over 2014 by over 400%. I checked the math. When I rechecked it, it actually went down from like 420 to 404, I think. So the math is legit. How I grew my business 404%, a lot of it had to do with asking for business. And I want to encourage you to do that. I had the chance to talk to Pat Flynn in episode 13, and man, I still have not been on his show yet. It has not aired, and I don't want to say it's frustrating, but I'm so excited. I'm so freaking eager to listen to that episode and be able to share it with you guys. Episode 14, I talked to Scott Fay. He was a big part of John Maxwell's success over the last few years. I got to meet him in person when I went to Florida a few years ago. Just such a nice guy. Kirk Bowman, episode 15. Eric Fisher for the first time in episode 16. I tried in, this would be like episode 16 and a half. It's called SE1 if you're looking for it, like special edition 1, where I got to talk to a really cool dude named Ben Adam Smith from the UK. He kind of got lost at New Media Expo in 2014 for a few days. And he has a really interesting story, like, what the heck happened to you, man? Kind of stuff. And if you listen to that one, I was trying to play up on a very short-lived and trending topic, and it worked, but I don't know that I would do that again. I want more evergreen, more timeless kind of things, but that was a kind of a cool episode. Money Saving Mom, Crystal Payne, episode 17, J.V. Crum, the third, episode 18, Tom Ewer, and episode 19. I'll tell you a lesson. This is some transparent stuff, and it makes me look bad, but I learned something. I sent out kind of a blanket email. I don't even know what it was for. And I sent it to Tom. And Tom replies back and something it's kind of abrasive, but I needed it. It was like that slap in the face that you need. He's like, really, dude, this is obviously a canned message. And you can do better than that. And that's always stuck with me. I don't know how long ago that was. And I got on to a guy named Charlie. Charlie sent me a message on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Actually, he sent it via email using my LinkedIn email address. So I knew the only people who email that are people that I've connected with on LinkedIn. So I knew it was a little bit weird. It was obviously a blanket email, and most people are crap at sending bulk emails. Here's a tip. Keep those emails short. Keep them very short, and don't you talk. Why write an email that doesn't sound like you anyway? Don't say like, greetings, friend. You don't say that crap in real life. Don't do it in an email. Anyway, Tom caught me on that, and I have tweaked how I send emails now. Cynthia Sanchez, episode 20. She's actually going to be featured in my book about how to get your first customer. So if you go to theexitstrategybook.com, I want you to pre-order that, and you'll get to hear more of Cynthia's story, along with the case studies of 5 or 6 other entrepreneurs about how to get your first client. I want you to have practical tips on what to do, not just what to do, but how to do it. The steps to take, when to do these things, all that. Marin Barriquet, episode 21, that was pretty awesome. Paul Cardall, I had a little bit of a fanboy moment there. Paul is an amazing piano player. Born with a congenital heart disease, literally just half a heart, and how he has fought through that. And it was, I was probably, right before I hit record, I was probably listening to a Paul Cardall song in my Amazon Music. Cash Car Convert, James Kenson, good friend of mine, episode 23. Mark Mason, episode 24. We met in person at Podcast Movement after about 5 or 6 months after I got fired. And he was like, why aren't you sharing this part of your story? People need to hear that. Stop covering it up, own your crap, and share your story. And him telling me that, that was a pivotal moment in the growth of my business. And here's what I want to tell you about that. And you're going to hear in a few weeks, you are going to hear a coaching call that I did with Brenda McGraw. And I've got the video. I may put the video up online too, but I will tell you it was a very emotional moment. But what I remember telling her, and it comes from going through this with Mark, the thing that embarrasses you, the thing that makes you feel like you are not worthy of doing what you want to do, the thing that has broken you, the event, the divorce, the bankruptcy, the illness, the whatever it is, that right there is what will allow you to have the impact that you need to have on your clients. That part of your story. And it could be nothing like totally devastating. It could be something, I always go to wine. I like drinking wine, but I've written about a winery here in Georgetown, Texas that Ashley, my wife, and I are members of. So even if you're thinking about just doing wine, so you went and you had a bad wine experience and you thought you could do better. So you started a wine company, or you went and you had enchiladas and they were awful and you thought you had a great family recipe so it doesn't have to be like an emotional, devastating thing or a life-changing thing. It can be a single thing, but that thing that is part of your story that you might not be so willing to share, that's the thing that will allow you to connect with the people, connect your message with the people who need to hear it. I don't want you to think that that's corny. It's true. It's absolutely true. And once you believe that, I think it will add fuel to the fire of your business. One of my most favorite episodes, or one of my most popular ones anyway, was episode 25. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. That's some advice that I hope you hear. Do not compare your beginning to someone else's middle. I had a great chat with my friend and fellow Baylor alum, Todd Tremonti, in episode 26. Alex Designs for Alex Harris, whose Twitter handle is Alex Designs, episode 27. Amy Clover in episode 28, and Rick Mulready in 29. My buddy, for the first time, I think this is the first time I had him on the show, episode 30, 17 Traits of Successful People with Nick Loper. I found an infographic, and we kind of debated it and chatted about it. Episode 32 with Laurel Staples. Episode 33 with Elaine Astru. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. Sorry, Elaine. She came up to me at podcast movement and wanted to share her story, and I think it really helped a lot of people. But that was one of the last episodes before I started making one of the shifts I started to make with my show, and that was to go from, hey, I went through this crap and I overcame it, to more of a business focus. And you'll see episodes like 34 about your personal brand and why it's so important with Arfan Qureshi, creating streams of cash and not just piles of money. So multiple businesses with Matt Terrio, and becoming complaint free and focusing on the possibility of today with Sybil Chavis, who just has a massive Facebook following, just based on the premise of being happy and being positive. It's pretty cool. Episode 37 anyway, was the 7 major mistakes I made as a new entrepreneur. That was another one. This is when I remember, this is when I started realizing that I didn't have to do interviews all the time. And I realized that people just wanted to hear me talk. It was a weird thing, but kind of cool. I had Ryan and Allison Gray on from Medical School HQ in episode 38. 39, Masterminds, Making Friends, and Finding Your Purpose. It was another solo episode. I had Ken Sanders in episode 40, Jeff Stevens in 41, and Dr. LaWanna Gladney about how success begins with how you think. It begins in the mind in episode 42. Man, Chris freaking Cerrone, a good buddy of mine. Although, Chris, you stood me up when I was in Vegas last time, so I'm still bitter about that, and we need to grab a drink or some dinner. Had Chris on there in episode 43. Man, we're not even halfway through, and I'm just having good memories of all of this stuff. So hopefully, if you've been listening for a while, hopefully this is bringing up some happy memories for you as well. And I don't want to point out how much I have grown over the last, but I do only for the purpose of saying you will grow the exact same way. You know, if you had all of the answers when you started, I mean, what's the point? And if you don't get any better, if you are the same after 44 episodes, like episode 43 with Amy Schmidauer, if you're the same as you were in the first 10, yeah, something's not right. So constant improvement, and I'm looking back at these episodes and thinking just how long ago they were. So happy memories. Moving on. So like I mentioned in episode 44, we talked about marketing with Amy Schmidauer, and 45, that was the episode where I went to Florida to talk to the podcast South Florida group, and man, they have grown so much. I think I was the second or third speaker, met a lot of people in person there that I had met online, and I recorded that and put that into episode 45. A high school friend of my wife was episode 46, Kelly Lanning, who is, I mean, she's doing cool stuff with the Houston Opera. She's the voice of the opera. And it was kind of cool because since I talked to her, I have met a lot of other people who are interested in doing voiceover work. So if that's you, how she got started, where she got trained, how she got new clients, how she got into working with the Houston Opera, go to empoweredpodcast.com/46 and you can hear how she did it. Rich Habits, the author of Rich Habits anyway, Tom Corley, 47, Carrie Oberbrunner, 48. I refer to that episode so many times because Carrie and I talked about how entrepreneurship, how starting a business is really like it's like a dimmer switch. When we start a business, we want it to be like a light switch. We'd love to be able to go from being successful at our day job to being successful in this entrepreneur journey that we're wanting to start. And it's not that. And I point people to episode 48. You can find it at, if you haven't picked up on it by now, you can go to empoweredpodcast.com/whatever the episode number is, 48, 49, 50, whatever, and go right to that episode. But I refer people back to episode 48 a lot, or at least reference it a lot because of that specific piece of that conversation and how building a business is that slider switch. It is not It is not a light switch like we would like it to be. And I hope you hear me on that building a business is a process. It is a gradual transition. It is not okay, I've opened my doors and boom, I'm making a whole bunch of money. So that was episode 48. 49. Episode 49 is my most downloaded episode of all time. That one, I might have cried. My wife cried. And it is the one where she interviews me. Ashley interviews me about what it was like to get fired and go into entrepreneurship. And this is another period of my life that I talk about a lot. And when I'm working with my coaching clients, I often tell them that I can only talk about certain things because I've been there. And this is one of those times. I got fired on January 17th, 2014. And 3 to 4 months after that, Ashley and I are having the conversation of, do I start looking for other jobs? Do I start filling out applications and seriously looking, or I don't know, how long do we really test the waters and see if I can build a business? And we got into that in episode 49. And I mentioned before, it was when I mentioned Mark Mason. So I mentioned that in episode 24, I talked to Mark, and episode 49 was the result of that. I was terrified. I'll be honest. I was terrified to share my story. I thought I would lose friends. I thought I would lose credibility, and I thought it would really just cancel any possibility or plan to build a business. So we talked about that in episode 24, about how much of an impact my conversation with Mark was, and that episode 49 is the result of that. And you know what? I talk about being transparent and all those kinds of things frequently. And that episode is, more than any other, not only is it the most downloaded episode, but it's also the one where I've gotten the most feedback. That people have told me that it was just like sitting in the same room with Ashley and I guess it's Ashley and me, technically. Ashley and me, and how it was just a conversation that they felt like they were right there for. And all of the negative things that I thought would happen when I opened up and shared the things that I was scared to share, none of them happened. And in fact, it was probably one of the best things that I could have done to acquire new customers and new clients. Episode 50, breaking out of your comfort zone with Whitney Miller. That was a cool chat too. Christina Cantor's episode 51. She has traveled all over the world, like couch surfing, and I thought that was one of the coolest things. Ashley and I were planning on going to New Zealand. One of my other friends, I saw him at our Easter service just yesterday. He and his wife couch surfed all over the world. And if you want to know how Christina Cantors did that, one of the guys that I've masterminded with a long time showed up in episode 52. And really, truly, you are, whether you believe it or not, I think most of the people who are going to be listening to this would agree, because I think podcasters are generally pretty smart folks. You are the average of the people that you spend the most time with. And that applies to how healthy you are, what you eat, what your hobbies are, what your political views are. If you hung out with a bunch of liberals, you're going to think like a liberal. If you hung out with a bunch of conservatives, you're going to start thinking like them. If you hung out with people who did CrossFit all the time, you'd be thinking you needed to go do crazy crap in the gym and do CrossFit all the time too. So, whether you agree or not, it's true. So trust me. And if you need to change your friends so you can change your life, start now. And you can hear how Justin and I talked about that in episode 52. When I'm talking about solo episodes and being very nervous about doing those, episode 53, How to Connect Better and See More Success, was another really popular one, and I'm glad I did it. You think your life is tough? Bernie Shung in episode 54. Wow. An incredible story, and I forgot to have her back. So I need to do that if I remember, but that was an incredible story. Just how that point in your life where you feel maybe the most broken could be the one that you can really build a brand around. That's that's definitely Bernie's story. Ted, thanks for being on episode 55. John Harrison, who by the way, I just started broadcasting this on my Facebook Live and on Periscope, and John popped in, and I wish I was on talking about episode 56 whenever he was on. So, he said, hey, Ellery, he said, popping in for a quick hello, rock on, Ellery. So, John, thanks for being on episode 56, because that was an episode where we crushed it. That was one of those where it really changed things for me, because it showed the value of a personal connection with your guests can have, on the quality of the content. John Harrison, check out his blog. It is, I will link to it. So go back to empoweredpodcast.com/credits and you can see John's blog, classicallytrained.net. He's blowing it up. He's doing some amazing things. And you want to see the power of what I mentioned before of really having a connection with your audience. You can see that in, where was it? Episode 56 with John. And you can also see the power of really integrating your passions with what you are doing for your work when you listen to John's podcast and read his blog. He loved video games. He was trained in leadership, and how he married those two things together it led to a lot of opportunities to him. Episode 57, I realized in episode 57 that, I sometimes make people cry on the show. And Miley YC, she's a cancer survivor, and she was telling her story about how she found her breast cancer when she was deployed. And she started crying on the show. But I tell you what, when people are showing that kind of raw emotion, it really connects with an audience. And episode 57 is another one that's just pretty amazing. So, not that you should try to get people to cry on your podcast or when you're interviewing them, but it's in the emotional connection. And when you can connect that way, the audience can tell. Episode 58, talking about your expertise and finding your purpose with the number 2 pencil, Lauren Gaggioli, Lacey Urscioli in episode 59. That was pretty awesome. And Lacey, thanks for allowing me to re-record that one. I goofed. What did I do? The recording messed up. So I used Pamela to record. So I used Pamela to record all of my episodes when I'm doing a Skype call, and something happened. I don't know if I deleted it or what, but Lacey, thank you for allowing me to fix my goof on that. 60, Michael Peggs, thank you for being on the show. Oh, if you go, that's a great way to leave it off, right? Death to Stock on Twitter. David Sherry and Allie Lehman started death2thestockphoto.com, I think's what it is. Again, if you go to empoweredpodcast.com/credits, you can see all of these links. But if you go to deathtothestockphoto.com, they send out amazing pictures, and they're all free. You can do whatever the heck you want with them. And the reason why I want you to check out, not necessarily their page, but why I would recommend episode 61, empoweredpodcast.com/61. You can go to that right now for you people watching Facebook Live, is they built their business model giving things away for free. And I talk about that in my book, Exit Strategy, when it comes out, how that's really the only business model that works anymore. Instead of borrowing credibility from a Sony or a Microsoft or a Jeep or a Ford and reselling their products, how do you get people to know, like, and trust you? Well, you gotta prove that you're worth paying attention to, and you do that by giving things away for free. David and Allie did that, and we talked about their business model, which is like a freemium model where part of it's free and then it goes paid. And they made like 5,000 or 6,000 after giving photos away for free. They started a subscription model. I think it's like $10 a month, something like that, and you get more photos. And I don't remember exactly, but they made $4,000 or $5,000 on one day when they went and did that. So giving away things for free in the beginning, like samples at the food court in the mall, it's a great way to build a business. I've done it, they've done it, and we talk about it there. Episode 62 with Andy Hayes. He's making a boatload of money with ads through selling tea subscriptions. And that was one of my favorite episodes. We got into how he did it, who he asked, who he pitched his site for. empoweredpodcast.com/62. Again, if you go to the credits, you can see all of that. I'll highlight some of my most popular ones. And if you've ever heard the saying, the money is in the list, referring to, your business's revenue is made from your email list, Ben Kruger and I talk about that in episode 63. Why people say that, why it's true, why it works, and how to build an email list. I get asked a lot how I have gotten my clients. And what I tell people is it's through a know, like, and trust process. And when people are debating if they want to work with me, I tell them to read my blog and listen to the show. So again, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, it's a great way to remove those barriers. I mentioned how podcasting helps you remove barriers and make friends. Usually the people that hire me, and especially the ones that hire me without much question, are usually listeners or readers. And for the most part, I don't think this is 100% true. They're also on my email list. So if you've ever heard the phrase, the money is in the email list, go to empoweredpodcast.com/63 and you check out that episode with Ben Kruger. Episode 64, we talked with Jessica Rhodes. She and I talked about LLCs versus S Corps and how to figure out which one is best for your business. Sean Ackerman and I thank Sean for coming on the show in episode 65. Episode 66 was what I learned about the business of podcasting throughout 2014. Yeah, it goes back. I've been, after 2.5 years, you hopefully learn some things. Episode 67, another solitary episode. Solitary sounds so negative. Solo sounds much better. And, episode 67 was one of those. Episode 68, I did a series. And if you're thinking about podcasting, a series, like if you do 3 or 4 episodes on a single topic all in a row, you can not only increase your SEO by linking to the other episodes, but you create a theme and you can tell people what's coming up next week. TV shows do it, almost said radio shows, there's no radio shows anymore. TV shows do it, previously on or coming up next. You can create that attention if you know what's coming next instead of just winging it. And I did that with episode 68, 69, and sort of 70 and 71. But Laura Elgaita, 68, Lou Mangello, hugely successful podcaster and actually podcast movement keynoter, Lou Mangello in episode 69, Keith Griffiths in episode 70, and Jason Gaynard in episode 71. Jason, I got the chance to meet him at Thrive. You've heard me talk about Thrive a bunch of times. It was a fantastic conference, and I hope I get to go again this year in 2016. But Jason talks about the value of your network. You've heard the phrase, your net worth is the sum or the total of your network. And Jason and I talk about how, a little bit, and I know he put it in his book, about the quality of your network is not, actually, it's not very much at all about addition. It's about subtraction, getting the wrong people out of your network. We talked a minute ago about Justin Carper and I talking about the value of masterminds. And I see on my live video, John Stolpe provided a rock star testimonial for my mastermind. So thank you, John. You're seeing this live and maybe hearing the recording. But you really see the value of surrounding yourself with quality people. And Jason and I talked about that. It's about subtraction as much as it is adding quality people. It's about eliminating negative people or people that just aren't helping you get anywhere. Episode 72 marked another kind of milestone for me in the show. It was when I started doing experts calls for my membership site. And the membership site wasn't very old at that point, but this was the beginning of those calls where we got into the kind of into the weeds. I think though some of those episodes were ones where they might have been too detailed for people who weren't doing anything. That's not quite fair, but they're too detailed for people. Well, I think that's accurate, who aren't doing anything. If you're not building a business, if you are not in the trenches, episode 72 is the beginning of those episodes of the time where I started talking about things that were really, I don't want to say detailed, but they're real. When we talked with Marshall, he's building a sock subscription business, and what he did, how he did it, the tools he used, all of that. You can start checking those out with episode 72. Episode 73, Nicole Lappin, she's just super successful, blowing up right now. 74 talked about how the details are some of the things that have the biggest impact, and what details to focus on. 75 was another solo show. So was 74, 75, and 76, I think, of the weight of entrepreneurship and what it's like to build a business. Episode 76 is all about email marketing. I share some of the tools that I use because, after all, we just talked about how Ben Kruger and I talked about how the money is in the list. So you've got to know what email tools to use. So if you're wanting to grow your business with email, go to empoweredpodcast.com/76. In episode 77, Lauren Gaggioli comes back. I think that's the second time. Yes, it is the second time, because the first time we talked about her business and everything like that. But in 77 is another experts call where she goes behind the scenes, the tools she uses, the camera, how she edits, how she's built her business based on referrals. I mean, how would you like it if most of your business came from referrals? I would say between my blog and podcast and referrals, I'd say 80% of my business comes through referrals, warm leads. But I think like almost 100% of her business and how she did it. That was an incredible episode. So Lauren, thank you for being on that one. 78, how to stay focused and moving forward. Episode 79, I did a giveaway. By the way, giveaways are a fantastic way to build your email list. I don't know how many people I added, but if you can provide a relevant resource and give it away to people who are interested in it, giveaways are a fantastic way to build your email list. Episode 80, I did a collaborative call with my friend Jason Beaton. If you've ever heard me refer to just straight Beaton, that's him, and that's about how to use your tax refund to start your business or how you can use that money. It's a good episode, kind of a boring topic though, I have to be honest. Anything tax related, it doesn't really seem to draw the crowds. Episode 81 was kind of a cool one because I got to talk to Jeff Woods, who is the host of the Mentee podcast. And I met him also at Thrive, and he introduced me to Bruce Buffer, who is the guy that does "It's Time," the voice of the UFC, and that was kind of a pivotal one, and it was a cool thing because my wife and I both like watching the UFC. At 82, how to be self-employed with Jeff Woods, how to become a writer and what that journey is like to become a full-time writer and use that as business. It's 82, 83, the top 5 pages you need to transform your blog into a business. I want to throw out a link real quick. So I want you to go to ellorywells.com/30 days and enroll in my 30-day blogging course. Every week on, I think, Tuesday morning, I will send you it's like a blog post, but they're not posted anywhere except for people who have signed up for the 30 days course. But that's where we come up with episode 83, the top 5 pages you need to transform your blog into a business. And not only what they are, but how to do them. And you can learn more about that by going to ellorywells.com/30 days. Again, sorry for all the links in this episode. Here's what you need to remember. If you're not at your computer typing these in, go to empoweredpodcast.com/credits and you will see this episode. You can listen to it if you're checking it out on iTunes or Stitcher right now, and you will see a link to all of the things that I have mentioned. So you don't have to remember them. Just go to /credits. So that's where we were, episode 83. Episode 84 was another experts call from my membership site with Nick Loper. He is the He started whatever, sidehustlenation.com. And he's got like 12 or 15 different, sources of income. He does micro lending. He has sponsorships on his site. He does coaching. And we talked about how to set those up, because what you don't want to do is have all of your eggs in one basket. And whether that's for just your business or just in life in general, if one thing goes down, let's say it was in real estate investing, and all of a sudden, like in California a few years ago, the real estate market tanked, you tank right along with it. And I'm a firm believer in having your business income from multiple sources, whether that's different product lines, whatever. And again, Nick Loper and I talk about that in episode 84. Lauren Gagioli is back. Is she on here 3 times? It's funny. I've never met Lauren in person, and I think she's been on my show 3 times. That's the power of podcasting. You make friends virtually. I'll meet her in July, I think, but anyway, it's pretty cool. Episode 86, I was just talking about how my Periscope feed that I'm broadcasting live just crashed and wasn't getting a whole lot of interaction, so I didn't throw it back up again. But Periscope, I really thought it would be a game changer. And honestly, it is. Live streaming video is a business game changer. And just like Jim Stovall told me, and I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, focus on your mission, not your method. If your mission is to show behind the scenes, and if it's to do more video, it really doesn't matter if it's Periscope, Blab, Snapchat, or Facebook Live. It's just that you need to do video. And here's what I will tell you. I have been waiting a long time to do Facebook Live video, because everybody is on Facebook and it's native. So if you had the opportunity to watch this live, you might have gotten a notification, and it plays directly into your news feed. You don't have to say, hey, follow this link to go on Facebook or on Periscope or on Blab. It's just right there in your news feed. Even Snapchat. You have to direct people to that. And whatever your mission is, it should be to add more video, by the way, but focus on the mission, not which tool necessarily you use to do it. Like, I'm a big fan of WordPress. It doesn't matter, really, it doesn't matter if you're on WordPress. I mean, technically, I think it kind of does, because of SEO and speed and flexibility, all that stuff. But what really matters is that you have a blog. What really matters is that you have a presence online. And what really matters is that you are sharing a message that helps other people. Mission versus method. Episode 87, The Power of Purpose with TEDx speaker Dale Thomas Vaughn. And then I mentioned I got to talk to Bruce Buffer, the voice of the UFC. That happens in episode 88. 89 is, what's your message? How to craft a story that sells. Sometimes the southern accent comes out more than I would like it to. Episode 90. Golly, this was another expert's call for the membership site with Patrick South. At the time, he was making almost $1,000 a week with YouTube. And now I have no idea what that is. That conversation happened, I don't know, 8 or 9 months ago. I'm sure his revenue has just gone through the ceiling. He's just blowing it up. We talk about YouTube tactics. We talk about the camera, the microphone, that he uses to do the videos, how he edits them, and the exact process that he uses to make that money on YouTube. I am getting a significant amount of traffic because people are wanting to know how to make money on YouTube. That's what they're searching Google for. And you can go to empoweredpodcast.com/90 to hear how someone is doing it. Not theory, not just, post cool videos or funny videos. Check out episode 90. It's right there. Episode 90, how to sell your products and feel good about it. Episode 92 is inside of one of my mastermind calls. I record all of those calls, and with the permission of the group, I treat it, my degree's in psychology, and I treat most of my client meetings kind of like that doctor-patient confidentiality kind of thing. And so with their permission, I released episode 92, which was for the most part, I think there was probably a few personal things that we edited out. If you want to know what my mastermind meetings look like, that's a pretty good picture. Episode 93, how to capture an audience and captivate the room with Tracy Goodwin. Episode 94, how to become a successful coach with my friend Valerie Gross. She's a life coach. How she did it, how she figured out what to price her services at, how to develop a belief in herself that would allow her to start a business that helps people. Episode 94 is where you want to go for that. Episode 95 is my takeaways from Podcast Movement 2015 that you can apply to your business even if you are not a podcaster. And that's the key. Not everybody wants to start a podcast, and even fewer people want to do a live broadcast like I am doing right now of what it is to be behind the scenes of a podcast. But if you can take these online business lessons and apply them to your offline business, you'd crush it. I mean, think about if you applied the online tactic of doing some email marketing and follow-up series to your pet store or to your restaurant. I don't know. I could probably come up with some cool ideas, but I'm not going to right now. You would crush it. I keep trying to get my sister with her Mary Kay business to do some of these kinds of things. And I think she's one of those, like my blog post this week. It's called What to Do When Even Your Friends Don't Know What You Do. I feel like that's me a lot. I feel like my sister is that right now. And if she applied some of the techniques that I use to grow my business to selling Mary Kay, she'd have that stupid pink Cadillac in minutes. Episode 96, another experts call with Alex Harris. That's the second time he's been on the show. Blue buttons versus orange buttons. How to get tweak your site for optimization, and how he built his business. Episode 97, the truth about what it takes to start a business and build a brand. 98. These last few episodes have been extremely popular as more and more people have listened. If you've ever shared an episode, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I would have stopped podcasting a long time if A, if nobody listened, B, if nobody shared, and if some of the other benefits weren't there. So, episode 98 was a very popular, very shared episode, and it's how to identify your avatar, have more focus, and make a bigger impact. I mentioned this as in episode 100. And by the way, you should follow me on Facebook, because you would see what I'm doing right now. I'm going to do it on camera. If you have an open palm, you can slap somebody or smack somebody, knock somebody upside the head, and sure, it would hurt, it would sting, but if you took these 5 random fingers and you made a fist out of them, you focused that energy and punched somebody, you could knock them out. A slap, that might knock somebody out, but a punch definitely could. And that's what episode 98 is all about. Identifying your avatar, having more focus, and making that impact. It's about taking that open palm and focusing it into a fist. And it's this weird inverse relationship. If you say your message is for everybody, or your product is for everybody, or anyone can benefit from what you have to say because you're trying to reach as many people as possible, you're going to end up not connecting with hardly anybody. It's not until you get specific that you do that. And episode 98 is where we talk about that. There's a great download to go along with that I guarantee you it will help you grow your business. Episode 99, experts call again, how to write quickly and get published with Jimmy Burgess. Episode 100, how to increase your productivity and live a balanced life. We talk about work-life balance. Man, when I was at Dell, one of the big things was how to create a work-life balance, and they sucked at doing it. But it's how to balance building a business with being a dad or having a family. Episode 100 is all about that. So again, the purpose of this episode, the one that, if you're watching live on Facebook, what's up, it's to talk about not only what I've learned over the last 100 plus episodes, but how you can employ them. And again, I wouldn't have had my first book for sure without my podcast, because it's about starting a podcast. But I would not have been able to grow my business, have the relationships that I have. I would not have the sales funnel of taking in people who had never heard of me and turning them into warm contacts and leads, if it were not for my podcast. Podcasting removes barriers, and it has helped me make a lot of friends. And if you want to see the links that we talked about, or that I talked about and you heard about throughout the episode, you can by going to empoweredpodcast.com/credits. This is a special episode of the show. So again, I'm going to recap this. The show's not going away. It is being renamed The Ellory Wells Show. And over the next few weeks, in addition to all of the content that you will hear, I'm making some changes that I think and hope you will love. But why did I rename it from the Empowered Podcast to the Ellory Wells Show? We'll get into that. But that's it. I can't believe the journey that podcasting has taken me on. And I wanted to record this episode just to really say thank you to, I wish I had the exact number, 70 plus interviews that I have had. People who have given me anywhere from 20 minutes like Bruce Buffer to, honestly, I talked to Scott Fay for almost an hour and 45 minutes. People who have given me hours of their time so that I can learn from them and share their story with listeners like you. If you're on the fence about starting a podcast, get over your fears. I mean, it's hard to be blunt about it. Not really all that sorry, but everything that we want in life exists outside of our comfort zone. At some point, walking was outside of your comfort zone. Putting together your first words was outside of your comfort zone. Taking any sort of ownership over feeding yourself. I mean, going back to the very beginning, everything that we want is outside of our comfort zone. And for me, podcasting was outside of my comfort zone. Thank you, Ashley, for buying my Blue Yeti. For everybody on Facebook, the Blue Yeti, it died on me. But thank you, Ashley, for buying me the microphone and believing in me and setting me on this journey. And so that's not all. Stay tuned to the Ellory Wells Show. If you follow me on ElloryWells.com, you will start seeing slightly different branding, and in iTunes, a new logo. Because here's what you will find when you listen to this going live. You will see a new logo that says "Real Business Growth." And I tell you what, there are so many podcasts out there. I'm not going to name any names, and maybe they've gotten better. I'm not as avid of a listener as I used to be, but there's so much crap out there. There are so many podcasts out there that are just, believe in yourself, feel good, do X, Y, Z, but they don't tell you how to do it. And you can put anything online. You can put any type of results, claim any sort of false whatever. It's got to be real. And I want you to hear me when I say I want to cut through any sort of crap and any sort of fluff and help you build a business. My goal is to create a culture of entrepreneurship. It's to help you develop an exit strategy so that you don't have to be sick to your stomach when you log into your work computer anymore. I've shared that story so many times, it's not terribly funny anymore. But sitting in this exact same office, I used to get sick logging into my computer, sick to my stomach, and not want to do that. And if I can prevent you from having that same feeling that I did, I'm going to do everything that I can in order to make that happen. And without blaming anyone, I've been there too, where you make fluff, or you read fluff, or you listen to fluff. I want the Ellory Wells Show to be about real business growth, real tips, real. Let's just leave it at that. A real look at what it's like to build a business and how to help you do that. So you can go to ellorywells.com/show. This will wrap it up for the credits episode and really the true and final episode of the Empowered Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. If you had the opportunity to watch on Facebook Live, thanks for doing that and sharing your comments. It's weird being on camera when you're not interacting with the people on camera. Like if you're doing an episode or you're interviewing somebody and you're looking at them on your computer screen, that's one thing. But I got a couple cameras over here that are just recording it, and I admit it's kind of weird. So thank you for being a listener. If you haven't checked out all 100 episodes, maybe skip the first few. I was not so wonderful. But if you want to see the journey of personal growth that I went through, you can definitely do that if you start over with episode 1. Now I have a favor to ask you. I'm going to be back in the new and noteworthy, which is a big deal on iTunes. It helps new shows, noteworthy shows, the episodes or shows that people are downloading and listening to. Go to ellorywells.com/iTunes, please. Real quick. Just go and leave me a rating and review. It doesn't have to be 5-star. You'll hear people out there asking for 5-star reviews. Screw that. Give me an honest review. I'm not here for you to boost my ego, and honestly, I'm not here to boost your ego either. I want something that's real and honest, and your honest feedback. If you love the show, tell me you love the show and throw me some 5 stars. If you think it could be better, maybe 3 or 4. But go to ellorywells.com/iTunes. It'll take you right there, or go into your iTunes app or whatever it is, and please give me some feedback, a rating and review. If you see me in new and noteworthy, share that with your friends. That's going to be my goal over the next few weeks here. Also, to relaunch with a new brand, with the new Ellory Wells Show. The Empowered Podcast will slowly fade into the background. The content will be there. Your feed will always say the same, but the Ellory Wells Show will begin to take over. Like, I wish there was a cool, Terminator analogy that I could use there, but please give me a rating or a review. If you have any questions or feedback, empoweredpodcast.com/credits. You can leave a comment. You can see all of the links for today's episode. Thank you again for listening. Go and do something amazing. Start changing your life today. Surround yourself with amazing and cool and fun and uplifting people. And I'll see you next week.